Boss tells View enough already. Dagan, according to the Daily Beast, Disney and ABC execs have told The View to tone down their Trump bashing because they're constantly doing it. Should they, though? I mean, isn't this their brand now? They got nothing left. If you take that away, what do they have?
Nothing.
Greg Gutfeld just went scorched-earth on The View after Disney's top boss supposedly threatened to wipe them off the map. It was a clapback so blistering that even Mickey would be reaching for an ice pack. What lit the fuse over at Disney, and how did Gutfeld spin that threat into pure comedy gold? Hang tight, this saga is tastier than a giant theme park turkey leg. Whenever Disney, the pastel kingdom of quippy sidekicks and mouse-eared merch, decides to swing the cancellation axe, it's usually over some limp cartoon or a box office dud starring a CGI raccoon with daddy issues. But this time, the House of Mouse aimed its magic wand straight at daytime TV's shrillest coven, The View. The once revered Sofa Squad pushed the envelope so hard it boomeranged and smacked them right in their freshly Botoxed brows. The headline hit the internet like a rogue churro ricocheting through Main Street, USA.
Disney, the owner of ABC News and daytime talk show The View, is now the subject of a new report claiming CEO Bob Iger is urging the show's host to tone down their criticism of President Donald Trump.
Always want us to be respectful and do the things and talk about the stuff we talk about. We can do all of that. But when you are blatantly giving the country the middle finger, that is blatant. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to take the plane.
Don't you think when he lets these white Africans in and claims that's giving the middle finger to the black community?
The same boardroom bigwigs who once bubble-wrapped The View in PR Teflon are suddenly breaking into a cold sweat. Turns out that watching 5 full-time outrage specialists bicker about who gets canceled next isn't exactly sprinkling pixie dust on the ratings. Who would have guessed a daily shriek and sip session wasn't the crown jewel of a multi-billion-dollar empire? Right on cue, in saunters Greg Gutfeld, Fox News' resident jester turned arsonist, brandishing a blowtorch of sarcasm. Picture Gordon Ramsay mid-meltdown. Swap the sauté pans for punchlines, and you've got the vibe. One glance at Disney's veiled threat, and Gutfeld treated it like a gilded invite to incinerate The View, the Hindenburg of daytime TV, overinflated, combustible, and stuffed with hot air. You never had to say it outright. The brilliance of a Gutfeld roast lives in the insinuation, the eyebrow arch so searing, it should come with an SPF warning. With glitter-dusted disdain, he gift-wrapped the moment and ripped open the facade of a show that stopped pretending ages ago. It's basically a glorified group chat convinced it's the Oracle at Delphi.
Nothing. As if the show is some delightful chit-chat fest without the political talk.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a lullaby and a shot of Dickel.
Yeah.
If they're not ripping on Trump. Here's Joy. She's going to share her feminine hygiene routine and tell you how to prevent your old tatas from going down and having a picnic with your belly button.
The View claims to champion women's voices, but only if they align perfectly with its narrative, vilify the right politicians, and revel in their own self-righteous echo chamber on ABC's stage. Watching it feels like enduring a chaotic group therapy session where no one listens, everyone interrupts, and the therapist bailed to star in a reality show. So what finally made Disney pull the plug? After years of letting the show spiral into a self-congratulatory loop of recycled hot takes and borrowed Twitter outrage, the execs had an epiphany. Loud doesn't equal compelling. Ratings weren't just drifting, they were nosediving faster than the storyline in a late-phase Marvel flick. When most of your viewers are kids whose TVs are still on after the morning cartoons, it's a glaring red flag.
That's like a cross between The View and Hee Haw. Except hoo-ha. Wow, that is pretty good, isn't it? It's hee-haw, me too-haw. I don't know. Michelle, you okay, Michelle? At least somebody got it, even when I was thinking, and I go, does that make any sense?
Yes, it made perfect sense.
Gutfeld couldn't resist taking a swing at what he calls the floundering liberal press. He painted The View as daytime TV's Roman Colosseum. Only instead of gladiators, you've got overpaid hosts lobbing passive-aggressive barbs and syrupy Instagram wisdom at one another. And the audience? Not roaring crowds, but a collective American throat clear, quietly suffocating from secondhand cringe. And then he unleashed on the panel itself a sarcasm-charged wrecking ball aimed at every co-host. In his telling, each one is a walking caricature. The self-proclaimed intellectual who mistakes $10 words for airtight logic, the perpetual victim whose main role is eye-rolling and righteous sighs, the nostalgia-soaked ex-celebrity who seems to have stumbled in from a bygone sitcom, offering nothing but befuddled looks and dated stories, and of course, the would-be centrist who collapses faster than a paper straw in a venti latte.
Told them to lighten up, and this is what they did on the Qatar jet, or Qatar jet.
The United States has accepted the plane. Is going to
He has accepted the plane. The United States has not accepted the plane.
He representing the government.
He's not representing us.
He's the government. Why does he want it, do you think? Because he's the king? He wants to go around the world like the king?
It goes to him and his presidential library, so it becomes his plane.
But we all know that that's BS, okay?
No.
He's not giving that to his presidential library. He's going to take it, he's going to fly and use it. But he's not supposed to have it. I got the Constitution right here. He's not supposed to have the plane. Okay?
All right, my point, Michelle. If you take that away from them, I don't know what they do.
Yeah.
Like what? It's like what Dagan said. There isn't anything else.
Disney's abrupt maybe we pull the plug moment felt less like corporate tyranny and more like a long overdue mercy pull. Even the executives who rubber-stamped Pirates of the Caribbean 6 could smell the decay. And right in that shaky existential pause, Gutfeld sauntered in, part ghost of common sense past, part stand-up critic, there to demonstrate that occasionally the best form of quality control is a perfectly aimed punchline. Let's be honest, The View has drifted into full-on self-parody, a weekly pageant of performative outrage, thinly gift-wrapped as empowerment. Each episode doubles as a crash course in how not to conduct a meaningful conversation. Picture 5 Yelp reviewers debating national policy while forgetting which restaurant they're reviewing. And you've got the vibe, Gutfeld skewered. Meanwhile, you could practically hear ABC's PR gears groaning under the strain of the spin. But even their finest wordsmithing couldn't salvage this mess. Not when Mickey Mouse himself was throwing side-eye at the time slot. Eventually, every ratings freefall becomes too steep to camouflage. All it takes is one executive with a telescope to spot the cliff edge and admit the plunge is real.
I love what you said about wanting to entertain audiences, critics saying Disney's too woke, but you're just putting out storytelling.
We are. Look, I don't really like the term woke because I think it's an umbrella term that I'm not 100% sure I even know what it means, and one could argue that sometimes it's used too liberally. That said, our primary purpose is to entertain, and where we can entertain responsibly, obviously we try to do that. We try to have a positive impact on the world, but the first thing we need to do is entertain.
The View used to pitch itself as more than a talk show. It was the self-appointed pulse of the nation. Now it can't even dominate water cooler gossip. Each day, the hosts regift the same dog-eared talking points with all the zest of a Twitter troll on low battery. The debates are so carefully timed to commercial breaks, they feel like opinion speed dating. 3 minutes of faux fireworks, then cuts to ads. See you after the rinse cycle. Gutfeld didn't just poke fun at The View, he performed a live autopsy. He held a cultural mirror to the panel's face and highlighted the thick layers of irrelevance, hypocrisy, and denial clinging to it like cheap pancake makeup. By doing so, he voiced what everyone else was thinking but was too polite to blurt out. The View has devolved from a talk show into a self-sustaining loop of exhausted outrage. And the irony? A table full of people, forever demanding accountability, can't muster a shred of introspection. Every discussion feels less like dialogue and more like a race to see who can play the offended card first. It's a carnival of contradictions, bankrolled by the same media empire now threatening to pull the plug.
You know what it reminds me of, Joey, is that it's like, it is a microcosm of the Democrat Party. If you look at The View, it's tightly wound and miserable, largely female, hallucinating and angry. Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
Let's not kid ourselves. This isn't a left-right clash. It's pure theater. The View doesn't inform, it emotes. It doesn't debate, it proclaims. Think less news panel, more midday seance, where facts are the first ghosts to exit and feelings hog the spotlight. Gutfeld never had to invent a punchline. The show supplies its own. All he had to do was gesture, arch an eyebrow, and boom, roasted. When a program becomes this reliably ridiculous, simply describing what happens on air already sounds like satire. And let's not pretend the ratings elephant isn't breakdancing in the middle of the studio. The numbers are dropping faster than a TikTok dance after its creator gets canceled. Viewers have an endless buffet of options now, and they're picking literally anything else. When your format is frozen in 2009, you're not just competing with Netflix or podcasts, you're losing to the hypnotic allure of a blank wall.
It's about the View. It's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Here, let's look at this political oddity. It really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But the View is a victim of the sunk cost fallacy.
Meanwhile, Gutfeld's snark-powered commentary keeps racking up viewers who break out in hives at the faintest whiff of sanctimony. The takeaway? Audiences crave brains, belly laughs, and razor-sharp insights, not high-pitched soapbox rants that feel like getting trapped in a group chat you never signed up for. Yet the View keeps lumbering along, oblivious to the fact it's now the cartoon it once skewered. The once tight panel has ballooned into a chorus of chronic interrupters, each scrambling to outrage the next while clutching their personal moral compass like it's a prop from wardrobe. Problem is, the needle's spinning, the map's 3 versions out of date, and the audience they're trying to guide has already left the tour bus.
How can you now speak the truth and when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie? Now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were dishonest. And they could be honest. All they would have to say is, look, we hate Trump so much. We were willing to lie about Joe Biden because we felt he was preferable. We thought our lying and our cover-up was on your behalf. Just say that. You're still scum, but at least you're honest scum.
While Disney mulls over its next move, the View dangles from a thread so frayed it's practically lint. And there's Gutfeld on the sidelines, scissors in hand, chuckling as he points out that the Emperor's new clothes are really just a patchwork of recycled hashtags. In the end, the harshest burn wasn't a quippy one-liner, it was the unflinching spotlight that exposed a show too proud to pivot and too disoriented to evolve. The View isn't scandalous anymore, it's just slapstick. And, as Gutfeld showed, sometimes toppling a paper tiger requires nothing more than a precisely aimed joke than stepping back to watch it collapse under its own weight.
An anti-aging drug for dogs has moved closer to gaining FDA approval. Customers are already waiting in line. No, it's nothing personal. We just save money using the same picture 3 times.
If this really is the View's farewell tour, let its legacy read like a warning label, not a trophy case. It's what happens when swagger eclipses substance and hive mind consensus passes for enlightenment. Somewhere in a Fox News studio, Greg Gutfeld is probably raising a glass less in triumph than in shock that it took Disney this long to smell the smoke. His segment wasn't merely a roast. It was a funeral dirge, not for television, but for the notion that shouting makes you smart. When the last credits crawl, the sudden hush may turn out to be the sharpest commentary the show ever produced. Pull the camera back from the View's meltdown, and you're staring at a scorched liberal media landscape where self-importance goes to croak and common sense quietly exits stage left, as if it just endured a Joy Behar monologue. Disney's cancellation threat wasn't some stray memo. It was a media-sized meteor screaming toward the dinosaur nest. And yes, the View is the loudest velociraptor in that doomed pen.
Wearing mascot Joy Behar. Men are sexist if they're not a fan of Kamala's laugh, or funny women in general, especially if they're in bed. Roll it.
What really ticks me off about him, though, is this laughing Kamala remark. It's such a sexist remark because a guy I was with over the weekend, a friend of mine, they said Kamala's laugh annoys me. Remember they said that about Hillary's laugh, that she was cackling. And men, they don't like a funny woman. We're afraid if you laugh or you make a joke that maybe You'll do that when they're in bed with you.
Oh my.
Joy Behar in bed? Ooh. I thought cows slept standing up.
Here's the real kicker. The View isn't some weird exception. It's the poster child for a whole genre that mistakes echo chamber groupthink for courage, confuses sanctimony with entertainment, and believes decibel level equals moral high ground. In this same ecosystem, credibility is measured by how theatrically aghast you look when someone mentions free speech, and every minor disagreement is hyped like the long-lost sequel to World War II. What's happening to The View is just the first sniffle before the liberal media establishment comes down with a full-blown existential flu. These legacy outlets have been staggering toward irrelevance for years, pearl-clutching and calling it progress. But even the loudest echo chamber eventually caves in once there's nobody left to hear the reverberations. Viewers aren't lining up to be scolded by a carousel of millionaires playing dress up as the resistance, especially when their boldest act of dissent is nodding along in different vocal registers. The proof is in the plummeting Nielsen charts. Ratings are tanking faster than the hosts when the teleprompter freezes. Audiences are bailing on any program that delivers all the nuance of a brick through a window because surprise pandering has a distinct odor and it's funkier than a Monday morning whoopee hot take.
I actually thought that was a nice break from the normal chatter, right? Did you notice how the audience they couldn't tell the difference? Because generally it is a screaming match. And so you have the audience basically joining in. That stuff, it has a reverse effect. Like it's making me more militant in my adherence to fossil fuels and to red meat. It's like I see that, I go, well, I'm gonna just start eating a raw ribeye while driving a tractor trailer up a mountain of coal. Just like this the whole time. I'm not stopping, I'm coming for you, View. But you're right. It's all it's actually not right versus left. That's left versus left.
Yes. Yeah.
Meanwhile, across the media trench line, Greg Gutfeld is chuckling all the way up the Nielsen ladder. Not because he's reinventing late night, but because he remembered the wheel already worked. Humor, check. Satyrs, check. Saying out loud what viewers are thinking instead of scolding them for it, double check. Apparently that counts as revolutionary these days. The irony gets richer. The same liberal media that once swaggered around with cultural home field advantage is now clutching the remote, begging viewers not to flip the channel while its credibility hemorrhages. For years, they treated cancel culture like a one-way smart bomb. Turns out, when the corporate suits aim it at you, the blast feels a whole lot different. Done it. And so we arrive at the season finale of this reality TV gone off the rails, The View's looming judgment day. Disney's cancellation chatter isn't a certainty yet, but it's a 5-alarm flare that even the cushiest castles of ideological fluff can go extinct. The options? 1, stage a miracle, rebrand, which would mean each co-host suddenly discovering self-awareness, not exactly in the benefits package. 2, fade into oblivion, like that TikTok dance your mom just mastered 6 months too late. Place your bets. What's left for them to try? They've milked moral outrage dry, dabbled in faux intellectual armchair activism, and even rebranded straight up yelling as dialogue. Strip all that away, and you're left with, well, more yelling. It's the frantic, arm-flailing kind that comes from a show once convinced it was untouchable, now scrambling for Nielsen crumbs. Maybe if they crank the volume high enough, they'll fool someone into thinking they're still relevant, or at least drown out the sound of viewers slipping out the door.